It's precisely 1:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Danushka Madhavela, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. The President left the island for the 12-day official tour. The Inland Revenue Department rakes in highest ever tax revenue in 2023. The Navy apprehended 16 individuals for illegal transporting of sea cucumber. 897 more drug suspects under arrest in 24 hours in Operation Yuktia. No recruitment in public service for 3 years. And in world news, record-breaking cold weather forecast for many U.S. states due to Arctic blast. And in sports, India pick up 4 spinners, but Mohammad Shami remains out from the Tour of England team. Now the local news in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe left the island for the 12-day official tour. During this tour, the President is scheduled to attend the 54th World Economic Forum, which begins on January 15th in Davos, Switzerland. During the World Economic Forum, the President has also planned to meet the world leaders and international investors participating in the conference. The President will discuss investment opportunities in Sri Lanka with those investors. Sri Lanka could not participate in last year's World Economic Forum due to the country's economic instability. After attending the World Economic Forum, President Ranil Wickremesinghe will leave for Uganda on January 18th from Davos to attend the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Kampala, Uganda. The President will return to the country on January 24th. During the period of President's tour, the President has appointed MP Shehan Semasinghe as the Acting Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policies. The Inland Revenue Department has achieved its highest ever tax revenue of 1,550.6 billion rupees in 2023, exceeding the target of 1,492 billion rupees given to them for the year, which is 104% of the set revenue target of 1,492 billion rupees given for 2023. Deputy Commissioner General Inland Revenue Department Saman Shantha told local media yesterday that those who are over 18 should not be afraid to obtain the Taxpayer Identification Number certificate, as registering with Inland Revenue Department for a TIN does not mean that they require to pay taxes, as only those individuals earning a fixed annual income of over 1.2 million rupees are required to pay income tax. The Sri Lankan Navy apprehended 16 individuals for illegal transporting of sea cucumber during separate operations conducted at Nadukuda area in Mannar recently. The operations also led to the seizure of 1,280 illegally harvested sea cucumbers. The Navy has also taken a cab which transporting the sea cucumbers into custody. The Navy conducts regular operations in the coastal and sea areas of the island in order to suppress illegal fishing activities performed by people with scant regard towards responsible fishing practices. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Your next generation digital banking partner, People's Bank.
Continuing local news, fresh clashes have broken out among inmates at the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Centre this morning. Security has been stepped up by deploying more police and army personnel. A search is on for some of the inmates who have gone missing. Sri Lanka Police, in tandem with the Army, Navy and the Special Task Force, have arrested 897 more suspects during a 24-hour countrywide anti-drug operation ending at 12:30 a.m. today. The Ministry of Public Security said 299 grams of heroin, 172 grams of crystal methamphetamine and 1,233 narcotic pills were taken into custody during that period. Meanwhile, 22 drug addicts who were among the arrestees have been sent for rehabilitation, and detention orders were secured against 24 suspects for further interrogations. Additionally, 37 suspects who were on the list of registered suspects of the Police Narcotics Bureau and the Police Special Task Force have been arrested during the special police operation. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board announced that several areas in the Colombo city will experience a 16-hour water cut from 5 p.m. today. The areas affected will be Colombo 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. The interruption is due to some essential maintenance work as part of the Amathale water supply system improvements and energy-saving project. Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena yesterday said that there will be no recruitment in the public service for another 3 years due to challenging economic situation in the country. However, the minister said that the cabinet gave approval for the recruitment of a group of drivers and conductors focusing on the mandatory accessibility to public transport. The minister was speaking at a ceremony to present appointments to a group of new drivers and conductors at the ministry. A group of employees who had lost their jobs at the board for various reasons, including not reporting to work, also received their appointments on this occasion. After examining the appeals submitted by this group of staff members who had lost their jobs for various reasons, including not reporting to work, a selected group was reinstated. With that, we conclude the local news.
Enjoy seamless shopping. Open LCs, settle bills and transfer funds instantly, anywhere and anytime. With People's Bank Digital Solutions, you're empowered to do more whenever and wherever you want. Unlock a world of modern banking conveniences with People's Bank, your next generation digital banking partner. People's Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
The Embassy of Sri Lanka in Iran, with the support of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, promoted Sri Lanka as a prime tourist destination. This was done at the 13th International Tourism and Related Industries exhibition held at the Fars Permanent International Fairground in Iran recently. The exhibition is an integrated travel fair involving inbound and outbound travel, B2B and B2C meetings, tourism presentations, important discussions and special sales offices for travel products. This was the first ever tourism promotion event in which the embassy participated outside Tehran. The Sri Lanka pavilion at the event attracted a large number of visitors and served to promote Sri Lanka as a popular travel destination. It created awareness on the recent developments of Sri Lanka tourism among the Iran public, especially in the Fars province, and international tourism industry participants. That came to you in main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
This is Watchlight.
Health and Industries Minister Dr. Ramesh Patirana told Parliament yesterday that the 13 billion rupees arrears due to pharmaceutical manufacturers will be paid soon. He was responding to a question by Colombo District Samagi Janabalawege MP S.M. Marikar. The minister said that there is a shortage of nearly 60 medicines in the medical supply sector and medicines are being distributed to hospitals and separate provisions have been made to buy the medicines needed. That came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Taking a look at the headlines of the world news. Record-breaking cold weather forecast for many U.S. states due to Arctic blast. Both sides play heavy on emotion in ICJ hearing in South Africa's genocide case against Israel. Ecuador violence affects whole world, President tells BBC. Now the world news in detail. massive winter storm has begun rolling across the U.S. and is predicted to bring dangerously cold temperatures and severe weather through the weekend. From blizzards and large hail to thunderstorms and tornadoes, the National Weather Service has issued weather alerts in nearly every state. Wind chills up to minus 42 degrees Celsius are forecast in Iowa, where voters are preparing to participate in the state's caucuses on Monday. It is the week's third major U.S. storm. Going into a 3-day weekend, thousands of flights were delayed or cancelled and people began experiencing power outages on Friday. New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency in advance of a storm in the western part of the state, activating the National Guard. A wind advisory warned of gusts up to 80 kilometers per hour from Texas to New York. The UN's top legal body has now heard 2 days of powerful legal argument on the crime of all crimes, genocide. It is now for the judges at the International Court of Justice to decide whether Israel, in its war in Gaza, is guilty of an attempt to destroy a national, ethnic, racial or religious group in whole or in part, as defined by the 1948 Convention on Genocide. There could hardly be a more weighty matter. Both sides have played heavily on the strong emotions swirling around the conflict that erupted on 7th October last year. Around 1,300 people, most of them civilians, were killed and about 240 others were taken hostage during the Hamas attack on southern Israel. More than 23,350 people have been killed, mostly children and women, during Israeli retaliatory attacks on Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa has told the BBC the gang violence which dramatically exploded this week in his country is a problem for the whole world. Ecuador's youngest ever president has only been in the job since November, but he is now faced with the country's biggest crisis in its modern history. Days of unrest saw 2 gang leaders escape from jail, prison guards held hostage, and explosive devices set off in a number of cities across the country. Then, a day after Mr. Noboa declared a state of emergency, armed men burst into the studios of TC Television in Guayaquil, threatening staff with guns live on air. Speaking exclusively to the BBC during his first visit to Guayaquil since the violence, the president acknowledged that the task ahead in restoring peace to the country was daunting. That ends World News. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the World News once again. Record-breaking cold weather forecast for many U.S. states due to Arctic blast. Both sides play heavy on emotion in ICJ hearing in South Africa's genocide case against Israel. Ecuador violence affects whole world, President tells BBC. That ends World News.
Development News.
State Minister for Tourism Diana Gamage predicts that the revitalization of the tourism industry in Sri Lanka will attract 2 million tourists in 2024, generating estimated revenue of $6 billion. Additionally, she highlighted a substantial increase of 106% in tourist arrivals in 2023 compared to the previous year, 2022. State Minister Diana Gamage made these remarks during a press conference held at the Presidential Media Centre under the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country yesterday. That was Development News.
Moving on with sports news.
Taking a look at sports news, Seema Mohammad Shami has not been included in India's squad to play the first 2 tests against England as he recovers from an ankle injury. Shami has not played since the World Cup in November, where he starred with 24 wickets but had been targeting a return against England. In his absence, India have picked 4 spinners: Akshar Patel, Ravindra Jadeja, Ravichandran Ashwin and Kuldeep Yadav. Uncapped pair Avish Khan and Dhruv Jurel are also in the 16-strong squad. That was Sports News.
Go එකක් තියන youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Starbucks is taking into union fight to America's highest court. The Supreme Court on Friday agreed to hear the coffee giant's challenge of a court order that required it to rehire union organizers that is fired in 2021. Starbucks has said the case from U.S. labor officials seeking the order was insufficient to justify the command. How the fight is decided could have big implications for what kind of relief U.S. workers can hope for in labor disputes. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go එකක් තියන youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news. During a meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Sri Lankan authorities and the International Monetary Fund on Thursday, the IMF congratulated the country on completing the first review under its program. The IMF highlighted the positive start of the program, recognizing the challenging reforms undertaken by Sri Lanka and their significant impact on the domestic population. Directors at the executive board meeting applauded Sri Lanka's courage in publishing the governance diagnostic, a pioneering effort in Asia. That was economic news.
Weather report.
Finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department forecasts that a few showers may occur in central and Uva provinces. Mainly fair weather will prevail in the other areas of the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in Sabaragamuwa and central provinces during the morning. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. The President left the island for the 12-day official tour. The Inland Revenue Department rakes in highest ever tax revenue in 2023. The Navy apprehended 16 individuals for illegal transporting of sea cucumber. 897 more drug suspects under arrest in 24 hours in Operation Yuktia. No recruitment in public service for 3 years. With that, we conclude the news, and over to my friend and certainly yours, who's all geared up to keep you entertained this Saturday with a great collection of music. Over to you, Hishma.